Well, today's the day. I'm starting my Pittsburgh to DC ride. It's about 335 to 350 miles, depending on how many towns we stop at. I've been training for this for 8 months, and I'm finally ready to roll. We're in Pittsburgh. There's a view of the fountain out there, and that's where we're gonna meet.
Right?
So we're at the fountain, getting ready to start. We got Dan up there.
Morning hug!
Harris made it in finally at 1 a.m. and we're ready to roll out. It was a beautiful day when we started the ride. I couldn't have asked for better weather. It was like 62, 63 degrees, clear blue skies for most of the ride. We started out in Pittsburgh. There's amazing bridges everywhere. I'm going to use the word amazing a lot because this trip was just that. It was truly incredible. Totally had a blast. This is the hot metal bridge. This bridge is where they used to transfer hot metal across to this different steel works. And they've preserved that in Pittsburgh, which is pretty incredible. There's a lot of bridges in this first cut because it just, every time we'd get to the bridges, it just was incredible. We would go on these old repurposed rail bridges and you're out over the water or whatever it was, and just amazing sights. It's not something I'm used to riding here in Eastern Ohio. This bridge was pretty scary. It was built in 1893 and it's pretty bad. Paris with his first flat. Blue Canoe, that was the first campground we stayed at. It was a great place. They had a swimming pool, hot showers, a nice kitchen. I was always slow at packing back up. Everybody else was much faster than I was, but I took my time and relaxed. Another bridge. This one was just kind of like an offshoot, but we stopped and took some pictures. Great sights everywhere. More great bridges, just great scenery, a couple hundred feet up. I'm glad they saved all of that stuff and turned it into this trail. I kept hearing that the trail was going to be the best thing ever, and it really was. These natural water slides were amazing. It was like 63 this morning, and these people were going down it, and I think they're crazy, but at least gave some entertainment for the day. Everything was so green and alive. We talked to this guy for a while. He was fly fishing. You could see all the fish in the water. It's a great time. Rocks the size of cars out there. This tunnel was amazing. No lights, but it was short enough that you could pretty well see. This is the viaduct that goes across a 4-lane highway, 2 railroad tracks, a river, and 2 farms. And you get to see for miles. They were building windmills or wooden turbines off in the distance with a crane, and you could see that. And it was something like I'd never seen. You're up in the air real high. It's well built, beautiful scenery. You see we're kind of going slow because everybody was just taking in the sights and we were deciding where the stopping point was. It was real long. This was the Myersdale, I believe it's called. We stayed there for the second night, and it was a nice little campground, festival place, I think. Pretty cool. Woke up that morning real tired. Didn't sleep great. It was cold. It was in the 40s. More bridges. I don't know if that's just because I'm an architecture nerd or what. Here's the Eastern Continental Divide. It's the highest point on the whole trail system. Like 2,392 feet, I think. Yeah. Dan surfing his bike. Truly talented. He says he's done that over 10,000 times. I believe this was the 3,300 foot long tunnel. And then you're welcomed by amazing views as soon as you get out of the tunnel. Here we're at the Mason-Dixon line where you cross from Pennsylvania into Maryland. Right before this, Neil peeled off the group. He had ridden from DC to Pittsburgh to meet us and then rode back towards Cumberland. But we were stopping, taking the sights, and he had a timeline to meet. So he took off when we got to about the Mason-Dixon line. More surfing here in this tunnel. The lights would turn on when we go by, so kind of neat. Brett with his priority bike. This part was amazing. So it was all downhill for like 25 miles, and we're going 20 mile an hour without really breaking a sweat. Here we are in Cumberland. This is at the part where it goes from the Gap Trail to the C&O Trail, but it's definitely posed for pictures. We had a nice lunch there too. Of course, Dan was surfing into the 0 point. So the start of the C&O for the first couple miles was fine, but the C&O is definitely a rougher trail. Not as much video came out of the beginning of the C&O. There was a lot of like potholes, and it goes down to single track for a while, and then like double track like this. Big rocks and just more bumps. My back was pretty well shot at that point. So I had a good time on it, don't get me wrong, but my back was feeling it. Paris and I, we rode kind of our own pace, a little bit faster than the rest of the group. The rest of the group kind of split up a few times. This was Paw Paw. We stayed in Paw Paw, West Virginia. In the morning, we rolled through this tunnel. When we come through, there's a guy sleeping on this boardwalk. I think I highlight it here in a moment. I said good morning to him, and he said good morning back. But man, I couldn't imagine just laying in your sleeping bag right on the side of the trail. This tunnel was really neat. We kind of pictured it. That was the Potomac back there. This is a nice spot with some lilies. That was at Hancock. There's a detour that takes you on the pavement, and Paris and I like going fast, so we kind of broke away. There's 22 miles of pavement. It's like the Maryland Trail that parallels the C&O. So we broke away, did that 22 miles of pavement, about 17, 18 miles an hour, and had a really good time. It takes you over some wooden bridges where the boards were a little loose, which was funny. Just you get on them and they'd kind of shake. And here we're back onto the C&O. There was a few spots in the C&O where it changes surface all of a sudden. It's like clay. This part was amazing. You just get to roll through, and there's just an open like cliff that you can jump right down into the water. This detour sucked. You have to take your stuff off of your bike because your bike's just so heavy, and then carry it all up, get your bike up there, put it all back together, and go around. You'd go over these locks and the different dams and things, and it's neat to see this old infrastructure. This was, I think, Williamsport we were rolling into. We had a nice lunch at a place called Tony's Pizza. Waitress was cool. We had good food. Paris had a flat when we came out, unfortunately. This is when we were leaving Williamsport and getting back onto the C&O. Along the Potomac here, we kind of leapfrogged with this group for a while. They'd get ahead of us, we'd get ahead of them. Did a really neat job. Apparently they didn't have canal through here. They just used the water of the Potomac, and this was the path that the mules would pull the boats with. And so they've repurposed that, added a little bit of new life to it, got it up above the water a bit more. This was, I think, dam number 4, I want to say. And this was our campsite for the night along the Potomac. We just kind of slept in a hiker-biker. There was a couple other people sleeping near there, a guy from Columbia, and another group that wasn't as friendly. We didn't really talk to them. 78 miles that day. It was a big day. I woke up real tired. My sleeping pad had a hole in it. 3 times it woke me up. I finally got it patched. Day 5, we were feeling pretty good. It's amazing how day 3 you're sore, day 4 you kind of make up for it, day 5 you're just good to go. We stopped in this town for breakfast at a restaurant called Betty's. Really good food. The waitress was kind of cranky. I think she was just overwhelmed, but we just kept good spirits the whole time and didn't let her get us down. By the end, she was making jokes with us, though. I didn't realize the Potomac was this rocky. There's like rock and moss and stuff while you're going, and it's really beautiful. It's not just, open body of water. There's rapids and white water in a few spots. It's really nice. Rolling into a town called Harper's Ferry, where you can go into town. So Dan, Bill, Paris, and myself, we decided to go into Harper's Ferry. Brett and Eileen stayed back to swim, and we just kind of did our own thing. Of course, Dan surfed into Harper's Ferry, which I think is awesome. Of course, I wear my crazy loud cycling jerseys, all the better to be seen while you're out riding on the roads. Apparently Harper's Ferry is like a national state park, or a national park or state park, I can't remember, but it was really nice, beautiful place. The lock houses were cool. You could apparently reserve them and stay in some of them. We didn't do that though. We didn't set a plan, no agenda, kind of wild camped for the most part. One of the many locks or viaducts, I guess, or aqueducts. This was White's Ferry. We came here to get a sandwich and we were going to continue to roll like 20 more miles, but there was a pavilion out back and we asked the girls that run the shop if we could camp there, and they're saying no, it's private property, all while shaking their head yes. So we ended up setting up tents in the under the pavilion out back, and Paris and I actually went out into the Potomac that night. It ended up raining and storming that night, but the sound of the rain on the tin roof was amazing. It was the best white noise ever. I got a great night's sleep. And that left us where we only had like 35 miles, 37 miles or something on the last day. Everybody woke up in great spirits. We packed up, making good jokes, but it's amazing. The group was kind of quiet as we were rolling because everybody knew the whole journey was about over. We became good friends, and it was coming to a close. We weren't going to have to do this tomorrow, type of thing. We kept saying over and over again that we get to do this. We're so lucky to get to do this, which is, it's pretty amazing. Dan surfing. One of the things, this whole group was super positive when we'd encounter anybody else. Didn't matter which day if it was like Wednesday, everybody would go, "Happy Wednesday," as we'd go. And this, spreading that positivity, if I was near the back of the group, you would see the smile on people's faces as they come by, as the group starts to welcome them and say, "Happy Saturday, happy Wednesday," whatever it was. And it was really neat. And then Dan, sometimes he'd be surfing and he'd be saying it. It was nice. A a lot of positivity, a lot of smiles going on. There I am in my loud cycling outfit. This is the start of some of the falls. It's Great Falls, Maryland. We're just about to at this point. So there's a dam here, I think, and then there's like the start of some waterfalls. And I met a few cyclists while I was up here and talked. Paris and I stayed up there for like 10, 15 minutes. Tiffany and Zach were on their way to pick me up. And initially we told them to meet us in Great Falls, but we were way ahead of them. So I said, just meet me in downtown DC. So we were kind of just taking it easy though, because we knew we were going to be ahead of them. And it's hard to coordinate. Tiffany had a 5.5 hour drive. And we didn't know how long we'd be biking. The trails were definitely busier the closer we got to DC. It was pretty amazing being in Great Falls. There's giant rock formations and water features. It almost feels like when you go to a zoo and they have, stuff like set up for the different animals, how it's man-made. It felt like that, but this is all natural water features, which I thought was pretty incredible. There are people out in this white water kayaking. Pretty skilled, I think, to be able to do that. We watched them for 15, 20 minutes, maybe half hour. And here we were, 15 miles out, something like that, I think. As you get closer, it just starts getting busier and busier. This group they were strangers to me. They all knew each other, but I met them on Facebook and I've talked to them for the last several months, but it was really nice to get to connect and learn about everybody's story and where their journey was and why they bike. And it was a great group. Had a lot of fun. The scenery gets real pretty as you get closer to DC. Just big old growth and blue skies. This is where I started to realize how close we really were to DC. I think we're only a couple miles from the 0 mark at this point. You have to cross the canal, and then you're on this like skinny, high up, path. There's like scaffolding in our way in a few spots, but I think we're only, half a mile or something from the 0 mark at this point. But when we get there, we didn't know where the 0 mark is exactly because there's detours. There's like construction signs right here telling you that it's detoured. But the detour's not laid out super well. So there was a bit of a sense of panic as we're like riding around looking for where the trail resumes. You can see the detour takes you a long way. And then you circle around, and right here we're rolling up to it. So the 0 mark's kind of hidden back behind this. You take a little bridge over there. At this point we have 353 miles on for the week. And here is the 0 mark. So I don't know why it starts out on this little island. I'd like to know the history of that. We were, just ecstatic. This was a journey I set out to do 8 months back, and 37 miles on for the day. Once we were done with the zero mark, we rode over to the Washington Monument and met up with Tiffany. And Paris and I rolled out. We dropped Paris in Pittsburgh. He took a bus back to Kansas City. And that's all she wrote. I appreciate you watching and listening to my journey. And can't wait for the next one.